Today we are going to discuss about some concepts on database, basically an introduction on database and SQL. Okay, so before going to discuss about database, let's define data. What is data in terms of data means some information. Okay, information or a collection of information. We can say some collection of information is called data. And then what else we have? So what is database? Then database is something like uh, it is a storage of data. Okay, or information. Storage of data is called database. What are the examples of storage of database? Okay, some examples you can say some files. Files is a database, like this file is one database you can think, or some Excel sheet is also a database where you can have some tables and Excel sheet. If you take an Excel sheet, you can have Microsoft Excel or any Excel sheet. You can have some columns and rows, and you can define a table like that. So this can be a database. Okay, that is one of the example. Or what are the examples? Sheet, etc. Okay, or there can be some files. And what is DBMS? Then database management system. So database management system is called DBMS. Means what? Software system to manage the databases. So we discussed what is database, right? So DBMS is a software management system to manage databases. Means essentially data. So what are the examples of these systems? What are the examples? So one is a SQL Server, okay, and MySQL, okay, and Oracle, IBM DB2, okay. So MySQL Server is from Microsoft, okay, and Oracle is from Oracle, okay, Oracle database. Let us say Oracle database. And what else we have? MS Access, Microsoft Access. And PostgreSQL. And what else we have? We have many other systems also. Like we have Azure SQL. There is a Cloud SQL. This is okay. And we also have AWS DynamoDB. We have AWS DynamoDB. And we have and what else we have? We have something like some other systems along with this database system. There is some other system called MongoDB. So many other databases like that. Okay. So these are some of the database management systems, which are softwares, essentially some software system to manage the databases. So what is a database? It is a simple storage of data. And what is data? It's a collection of information. So here, let us think we are saying that it is a storage of data. Okay. And to manage this data, there was a language essentially to manage the relational DBMS, relational database management systems. There was a language that is called SQL. So what is relational database management systems? So in relational database management systems, there would be a concept called entities or tables, and there would be relation between the tables. For now, you can think like there can be a table like uh, a class table, and there can be a table like student table, and there can be a relation between the class table and the student table, like that. So if there is a relation between the tables, then that kind of database management system is called relational DBMS. And to manage the such type of relational database management systems, we have something called SQL. Okay. So that is the relational database management system. And what is a SQL? SQL is means so SQL means a structured query language. So it is a language. Basically, this was designed by IBM initially, and it is a collection of some commands which we can use to work on database management systems such as relational database management system, RDBMS, or something called RDBMS, or database management systems. So to work on our relational database management systems, there was a language called a structured query language. And then, so what is the structured query languages contain? Basically, it contain some commands which we can use, which can be used to manage the databases. Okay, so those are some collection of commands. So what operations we can do using the SQL? Basically, we can do some database designing, okay, and database management, and database controlling. Like we want to control some actions on database. So basically, we can do these type of things. So for that sake, the commands in SQL are divided into three categories: DDL, DML, TCL. Basically, these are the three uh, uh, groups in which you can categorize them. And we also have some DCL, also data control language commands or something like that. But essentially, you can think of three. Like if you know these three, like you know some like most of the SQL to work on database. So what is DDL? DDL means data base design, I think. Design. I don't remember. I just remember.
Definitions.
Yeah, definition, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Database definition language. Yeah. It was long back. So, and DML means data manipulation language, not database. It is data. Yeah. TCL means transaction control language. And there is also DCL, data control language. Generally, you can categorize some more in that. So data control language. So these are the three like four types actually of languages or commands you can categorize. Some people may know these, or you categorize these or not. That there is nothing wrong, but all of these are just a SQL. If you know them or not, it doesn't matter generally. But all of them, these are called a SQL. Okay. So what are these commands? We will see. Okay, so till now what we have discussed is what is data, what is database, what is database management system. In that we discussed a relational database management system in which we are going to have data in the form of tables. So data in the form of tables, and relationships between them. Yeah. And then we started discussing what is SQL, and it is a collection of commands that we can use to manage databases. And these SQL commands are categorized into these categories like DDL, DML, TCL, DCL categories. And once you know these categories, most of the SQL you would be knowing, and you can work on databases. So this is some intro on database management or databases and SQL. So yeah. So next we will discuss some concepts on uh, like uh, like how to create a table and how to insert records into a table, how to query records from a table, how to update table, kind of those things we will start discussing. Okay, so that is something like we will be discussing the SQL itself. Okay, so we can discuss lot on databases. There are many things on databases which we are not doing in this class. So something like there are uh, there is something called normalization forms, like the forms which can be used to create the databases. And there are some other concepts uh, like how you can create what are the advantages of database, and there are many other concepts which can discuss on databases. We are not doing those things. Those actually, like if you have done any course on database, you might have learned those things in as part of your coursework. We are straight away going into the SQL. Okay, so today we will be discussing some concepts on DDL and DML. Okay, so these things we would be discussing. So some commands that fall under DDL we will write here: data definition language. Okay, so those commands are create, alter, truncate, and drop. So these are the commands that fall under DDL. Why these called DDL commands means we are creating the structure itself. Like DDL language works on the structure. Something like you are creating the house, then that is called DDL. If you are working something on the data or manipulating the data on directly on the data itself, like inserting, updating, deleting, then those are called DML. Okay, so insert, update, delete, and we also have select. So these are some of the commands in DML. These work on data. So this works on structure. This is working on data. Something like you are creating a house and you are manipulating or managing the data inside the house. You can think something like that analogy. Okay, so if you want to create a database or if you want to create a table, then you use create. If you want to change or update something in uh, the database structure or table structure, then you will use alter. And if you want to drop totally the structure, then you will use drop. And if you want to truncate, then you would use a truncate command. So there is a little difference between truncate and drop. We will see. Truncate is something like dropping and creating again. So something truncate, you can think it is equal to drop and create, drop plus create. Okay, so these are the some commands that falls on the DDL category. These are the some commands that fall under the DML category, and all these are again SQL. Okay, so DDL or SQL commands, DML or SQL. This is just categorization. So insert is a command used to insert the data into the database, update to update the data in the database, delete to delete the data in the database, select is to select the data in the database or table. Similarly, create is to create the structure, might be a database or table or a user or some other entity or object. Similarly, all drop is to drop a user or a table or some object in the database. We can use these commands. Okay, so we will see all these commands for. Okay, before going into detail on those commands, let us see what is level of data like which we will be using, some concepts. So database is let's start with the server. Okay, there will be server is something like an engine to manage the databases. So it's kind of an engine to manage the databases, you can think. Okay, and then we have DBMS or sorry, management studio, or we can say client. Okay, this is something like a interface, means some UI. You would be having some UI which you can use to manage databases. Okay, to work on to manage databases or data servers. So you want to work on servers or manage databases, then you can use a client. This is called a SQL client actually, which for example here in Microsoft SQL server, then it is called Microsoft Studio. In Oracle it is called SQL Developer. So SQL Developer is another one. Okay, so we can use anything, like I have MySQL, which in MySQL it is called Workbench, and these are all SQL clients. You can use these SQL clients to manage the databases or data servers. So these are something like a visual thing, like this is one of the visual system or a software which you can use to connect to a server. So I'm just disconnecting here. You can say database engine. You connect to the SQL server. You can provide the address, whatever the server name you want to connect. If it is local, you can connect here. If it is something deployed in the Azure or somewhere, you can connect to the remote server also like this. But I am connecting to my local server, which is installed in my machine. So this is my machine name, and this is the instance name, server name. So I'm connecting to my local database management system server. So once I connect to the server, I can see all these as part of a Microsoft SQL Server database. But you can have the same kind of thing in Oracle or MySQL also. So you can have Workbench. So this is Workbench, which you can use to connect to local instance or remote. I'm connecting to local instance. Okay. No, okay. So this is my local instance, and there are schemas under my local instance. So these are my local instance, and you can create tables. Here you can see some tables. So these are tables inside the tables. You can see. So like that, you can connect to different instances through Workbench. So same case, the only the software is differing. Okay, commands also 99% are same. Okay, little bit difference here and there, but concept wise both are same. Okay, And here they call it as a schema. In Workbench they will be called as schema. You can see it is calling schema here. Here in the SQL servers management studio, which is SQL server, they will be called as databases. Here schemas, databases, and there is another schema concept here also, we will see that. So this is essentially an introduction to what is called client. And then we have database. Database is something like collection of tables. For now you can think like collection of tables, and they also contain some other things, something like they also contain a database may contain something called views, stored procedures, and many other things. Okay, we will discuss all those things, but for now these are the things you can take. And what is a table? Table is contains it's a matrix, something like a matrix of rows and columns, you can think. Columns, okay, in which rows are called records and columns are called fields. Okay, so table is a matrix of rows and columns, in which rows are called records and columns are called fields. And this is about some terminology which we need to know. So server will contain databases. Databases will contain tables. Okay, so server contains databases, you can think, or schemas, and databases contains tables. Tables contain, actually they contain data in the form of rows and columns, or records and fields. So this is about what is server. Server means they contain databases, and databases inside contain tables. Tables inside contain data, and data in the form of records and fields. So this is what you need to know about databases. Okay, so we started with what is database, then what is SQL, then after SQL the categorization in SQL. In the SQL categorization we just saw DDL and DML. In DDL these are the commands, and in DML these are the commands, and we just saw what is these things. We will see we'll discuss further on the commands. So let's start with create command. Create command is used to create an object. That object can be a database, or a table, or a stored procedure, or a view, or a user, or anything else, or index, or anything else. There can be many types of objects inside a database. So basically this is used to create something. The name itself says. Alter is to modify. Alter is to modify. Okay, modify the structure. Okay, so you can modify a database structure, can modify a table structure, you can modify a user properties, or you can modify a stored procedure parameters, you can modify a view. To essentially to modify something, there is called alter command. And drop command is to totally remove it. Okay, to remove it, the structure, to totally take off the structure from the server. Something like you can drop a database, drop a table, drop a view, drop a index, drop a user, you can drop a stored procedure. All these you can do using drop command. Truncate, you can generally use it on a top of table. It is only applies to a table. Something like when you do a truncate command on a table, what does it do is it will totally remove that database, or sorry, remove the table. That is, it will drop the table, and it will create the table back. It will create the table back, something like it resets everything and creates the table back. It will. So that is what a truncate command does. We will see a difference between truncate and delete afterwards, but these are the commands. Okay, we will see all these in action. For now I am working on a SQL server. There can be any database or any online system or something like you can use, but these are the commands. Okay, so I want to create a database. For now I want to create a database that is batch 33. So create database batch 33. That's what I want to create. Okay, this is a command which we can use to create a database. So I want to uh, yeah, if you want to create a database you can create like this. So when I execute here, this is the execute command. When I execute it, it says commands completed successfully and what is the completion time. And like that you can create a database, and once you refresh here you can see that database is created. Okay, you want to remove the database. So how to remove the database? Drop database batch 33. Just give the name, then it drops the database. Generally we use capital letters for the commands, like this. Okay, it's up to you, but generally that's the convention. Okay, there is no compulsion, but generally companies follow that. Okay, so you want to remove a database, you want to take out this or remove that, you can say remove it, command completed successfully, and you can see the completion time. And once you refresh it, you see it is removed. So you can create this way and you can remove this way. Okay, now again I created, so you can see it is created. So I'm just copying these commands into our file. And next I want to show you something. When you see the properties, so it is said like we created a database, then what does it happen? Essentially this database got created at some location in our file system. So if you want to see those files, you can go into the files. You can see there are two files inside this. One is called this is called master data file actually, or primary file, and this is a log file. So there will be two files, those got created, and there is some size allocated to it. This is the default allocation. You can use some commands to adjust these while you are creating. If you don't want to create this much small, you can create them. These will have an auto growth and auto adjustment for now. And these file names is MDF, LDF. MDF means master data file. LDF means log data file. Like this gets created, like two files get created. So these are located at this file location. Okay, this file location. You want to open that, you can also open that file location inside here in our system. So once you open that file location, sorry, it is not okay. C program files, Microsoft, let's go to there. C program files, Microsoft SQL Server, then what else? MS SQL Express, MS SQL data. Oh, for some reason we are not able to open it. Yeah, but they get, those two get created in that location. So we saw like those two are like, one is MDF, master data file, one is LDF. Master data file is the file which actually contains the data. Means once you insert some data into the database, database, then it actually gets stored in that master data file. Whereas in LDF is a log file, something like anything happens to the master data file, it will record what has happened to that file. For example, you insert some data, it will note on this date this user has inserted this data. Once you delete some data, on this date this user has deleted date and time this data, or updated this table, or created this record, or modified this record, or did some work. All the works get stored in this log data file. This is just an information of what has done to the database. This is an information of the real data itself. Okay, so that is about these two files. Okay, and once you delete, okay, yeah, so that's about uh, today's session. Like we just discussed create and drop, and we can also discuss let's discuss some other thing also. You want to create a table inside this database, so what command you need to use? You need to say use, and you need to mention the database name, then that database name will get used. So see here, you have for now a database called master, which is a database which is a table that is already which is a database that came as part of the default database inside our server, something like system databases. You can see the master database is a database that comes as part of the server itself. So this is a database for the server. These all databases are databases for the server. So for now, when on your query window, this window, it is defaulting to the master database. If you want to change it, you can change it here. You click on the window, you can come here and change to batch 33. You can do that, but you can also use a command which is a safer way. Something like you can say use batch 33, then this master will change to the batch 33. So see, it has changed to batch 33. So like that you can change. Once you say use batch 33, it will update the current database to batch 33. And you want to create a table, then you can say create table, and I want to create table something like participants, something like this table I want to create. And you want to have some rows inside the table. So how you can say, you can give some rows inside the table. So participants, and what rows you want to create inside the table. So you want to create something like int some id you want to create, and int is invalid type. I think I need to see the valid types. Int. Okay, I need to give data type here. Sorry. I think, yeah, this is the data procedure. ID, then you can say name, and you can say varchar, and you can give the size. We'll discuss what are these data types and those things. The name is also a command itself, so I am taking it as participant name, and you can give something like phone number, and you can say varchar 10. Varchar means string text, you can think. So I want to create a table using these three columns, and I can create it like this: create table. It gets created. You can go into this tables, and you can refresh You can see the participants table, and you want to remove the table, you can say drop table, and you can say participants. The table gets dropped. So once you refresh it, it is dropped, and you want to create it, you can create it back. Yeah. So we have learned only these concepts today, and we will see the rest of them tomorrow. And do you have any questions? You can ask me now. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can call me or you can message me anytime, and I'm happy to discuss the questions. And thanks for joining the class today. And we will discuss some more useful concepts today.